Capital punishment is a state-sanctioned execution of a prisoner. As of today, capital punishment is authorized in 27 states. Ted Bundy was an American serial killer who confessed to the rape and murder of 30 young women. Due to his crimes over the time and the fact that he was captured in Florida where capital punishment is legal, he was sentenced to be executed by the electric chair.
In imposing sentence, Judge Cowart cited the savagery of the crimes and what he called the indifference of the defendant.
This court, independent of, but in agreement with, the advisory sentence rendered by the jury, does hereby impose the death penalty upon the defendant Theodore Robert Bundy.
Unfortunately, Ted Bundy committed some very heinous crimes and brought an untimely end to many innocent people, but this does not change the fact that he was what many people would consider a normal human being and was entitled to life. In an interview before he was executed, he felt remorse and gave a warning about pornography.
I grew up in a wonderful home with two dedicated and loving parents, one of 5 brothers and sisters. A home where we as children were the focus of my parents' lives, where we regularly attended church, 2 Christian parents who did not drink, they did not smoke, there was no gambling, there was no physical abuse or fighting in the home. That basically, I was a normal person. I wasn't some guy hanging out at bars or a bum. I wasn't a pervert in the sense that, people look at somebody and say, I know there's something wrong with them, and just tell. I mean, I was essentially a normal person. I had good friends. I led a normal life, except for this one small but very potent, very destructive segment of it that I kept very secret, very close to myself, and didn't let anybody know about it.
Amnesty International is a movement that fights for injustice. In 2020, they reported that more than 2/3 of the world has now abolished the death penalty in law and practice. And 108 states have completely abolished the death penalty for all crimes, while 28 countries have effectively abolished the death penalty by not executing anyone over the past 10 years, and 55 countries still retain the death penalty for ordinary crimes. The death penalty carries the inherent risk of executing an innocent person. In a study released by the National Academy of Sciences, it reports that at least 4.1% of the defendants sentenced to death in the United States are innocent. An example in this case would be George Steiny, a 14-year-old boy who was wrongly accused of murdering 2 young white girls. He was given an unfair trial and was sentenced to death by the electric chair in June 1944, making him the youngest person to be put to death by the electric chair. He was only a 14-year-old child who did not deserve to have his life taken away from him based on faulty accusations. Furthermore, he did not receive justice for his wrongful accusation until 77 years later. The Equal Justice USA is a nonprofit organization from Brooklyn, New York that works to transform the justice system from one that harms to one that heals. The EJUSA believes for decades states have wasted countless taxpayer dollars maintaining the death penalty system riddled with problems and inequalities. They have been strongly against the use of capital punishment, even explaining the alarming cost of the death penalty. The death penalty is far more costly than housing and feeding someone in prison for the rest of their lives. The Federal Bureau of Prisons spent nearly $4.7 million on the first 5 executions carried out by the Trump administration in July and August of 2020, according to the redacted government financial records obtained by the American Civil Liberties Union. Prisoners who are awaiting execution may have to wait over a decade just to meet the Grim Reaper, mainly because the complex and time-consuming appeal process mandated by the jurisdiction. Kerry Dean Moore spent 38 years on death row by the time of his execution in 2018. He was sentenced to death in 1980 for the murders of 2 cab drivers. Moore was executed on August 14, 2018. Some people may argue that spending 38 years on death row would fall under cruel and unusual punishment. While on death row, prisoners serving capital sentences are generally isolated from other prisoners, excluded from prison educational and employment programs, and sharply restricted in terms of visitation and exercise, spending as much as 23 hours a day alone in their cells. In an interview done by American filmmaker Michael Moore, he interviews a Norwegian father who lost his son to a neo-Nazi gunman. The father comments on the gunman not getting the death penalty.
We don't have death sentences here in Norway, so we kind of say that the mass murderer, he's going to have the same kind of treatment as everybody else. The justice system is going to judge him, and he's going to have his sentence.
You cared about whether he had a fair trial?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah.
You yourself?
Yeah.
But don't you personally want to kill him?
No.
If you had the chance?
No.
If you had the chance?
No.
But he killed your son.
Yeah, but no.
You don't want to kill him?
No.
But he killed your son.
Yeah, killed my son.
You wouldn't want
But
to
I don't want
take
to step. I don't want to step down on the ladder and say, I have the same right as you thought you had to kill. I don't have the same right.
Even though he's just a piece of scum.
Yeah, but I know he's a piece of scum, but it doesn't give me the right to shoot him or kill him.
Rehabilitation should be the main priority of the prison systems. Prisons in Norway are heavily focused on rehabilitation. Their goal is to, in a humane way, help offenders learn and grow as people. Norwegian prisons also have wooden furnitures, desks, a full set of bed sheets, a flat-screen TV, and a private bathroom with a shower. While Supermax prisons in the United States offer their offenders soundproof cells with a cement slab as a bed. Not only does this prove that the United States has some of the toughest prisons, it also lacks a fair judicial system. The use of capital punishment should no longer have a place in today's modern society.